Hi, everybody. Welcome. Tonight is Thursday, June 18th, 2026, and it's a quarter past the hour. This is the Countrywide Coordinator Training with Anna Maria Riezinger. And let's see here. There you are. Hi, Anna. How are you? You sound a lot better.
I am. I'm definitely making progress. Not 100% yet, but getting feistier by the moment.
Good. You're back to your old self almost.
Almost.
That's good. So what's happening? We have a bunch of hands up, and normally we don't go straight to hands, right? Normally you've got some training for us or some words of wisdom, things you want to share, current affairs.
Well, according to some of my banker buddies, we're having trouble in Africa. Um, Wherever the old British Commonwealth existed, we're
Hmm.
having trouble getting our QRC codes to work. But in other places that were not under their domination, everything is fine. So I'm waiting to hear what the holdup there is. There were also some false allegations made against the bank that were actually very, old satanic bull. The old accuse you of doing what they're doing situation, and we've had to go back and do a rather lengthy investigation and track down all the IPNs and the sources of the problem that they created for us, and then tried to blame us. So that's taken up with some considerable energy this past week, but we're confident that we're going to get that all straightened out, and it will be then obvious who was doing what to whom and why. And essentially, um, some very skullduggerous parties that have no integrity were setting up accounts for people at GFG and then demanding the usernames and passcodes on those accounts and zeroing those accounts out so that they could benefit themselves and establish credit outside of the system uh, to front an entirely different organization and an entirely different government structure that they were trying to create. And at the same time, a move was made against my trusteeship on the Avila Family Trust by misrepresenting the trustees as a board of three, when in fact each trustee was responsible for a different jurisdiction and a different class of assets.
Mm.
And so as you saw this past week, I was, I tried to resolve it within the group and get everybody back on the same page so that they all understood the structure of the trust and the operations, the operational intentions of the beneficiary when he set up the trust. And anyway, I had to come, bring forward an international declaration concerning that so that everybody was brought up to speed at the same time. And hopefully we now are going to go forward with a clear understanding of the jurisdictions involved and the asset classes that each jurisdiction is responsible for, and why each trustee was chosen for their particular trusteeship within the overall structure. And no, it wasn't my Harold that was
Oh,
trying to remove me. It was different Harold. But anyway, just so everybody's cleared up on that, no, he did not stab me in the back, and he's still a good guy. But anyway, this has all created a lot of shuffling around. I want you to note how they all, tend to act like schoolboys and clump up in a corner and make assumptions and presumptions that are beneficial to themselves without any regard for truth or you know, the actual intentions of the trust indenture. And to me, it's just a mark of immaturity that even though these men are fully grown, you know, it's just that for some reason, whenever men are given any kind of power, they over amp it and try to, you know, weasel more out of it and disrespect the empowerments and rights and prerogatives of others. And Julius, his actual name was Demetrius Julius Scheibe, but he always preferred to be called by his middle name. Julius was fully aware of the structure of the global trust and the way everything was supposed to run. And he very deliberately named me his trustee on the land and soil. And he went through the entire process to declare himself as a South Carolinian. And so there is no doubt about who is his trustee on the land and soil. And you know, the present situation where the two other trustees in the air and the sea are charged with recouping the mistakes and recouping the assets that were, quote unquote, mismanaged at sea and in the air jurisdictions, are in fact responsible for the work because the land did nothing wrong.
Right.
You know, the land jurisdiction has always operated above board and done everything that it was supposed to do, and it still is. And so we are lawful persons acting lawfully, and all of the loss of assets and the mismanagement and misuse of assets has taken place at the level of the sea and the air. But if the sea and the air don't come to terms and do the right thing, then they will lose the right of ownership, which actually means caretaking or stewardship in the air and sea jurisdictions. Because actually those assets belong to the land jurisdiction. All physical assets belong to the land. And so the sea has only a very minor role and only when they're actually at sea. And this is one of the things that has been misrepresented by the British Empire for a long time. And we're coming to an end of that. Also, the international organizations are being brought up by a short leash because, as was reported this week, one of the long-standing problems with organization of the world ever since the Second World War is a particular piece of international level legislation that was passed by the U.S. Congress following the Second World War, and that is the International Organizations Immunity Act, which gives the UN and UN agencies immunity. And that means immunity even on American soil. So we've had all of these UN organizations and UN employees and even UN vendors and UN agencies and UN affiliates claiming that they are immune from any kind of, so essentially a diplomatic type of immunity, as if they had their own little carry around office that they could claim immunity from our laws and thumb their noses and not be audited, investigated, or arrested or anything on American soil. And they've been running roughshod and thumbing their noses at all forms of police and law enforcement organizations and policy makers, everybody, since the 1940s. Now, most Americans have not been aware of it. And when it first began, it wasn't really a big problem because it was the equivalent of giving them diplomatic immunity and viewing the UN as an embassy, a multinational embassy. Immediately afterward, and for about the first 20 years, everything went along huckle-de-buck. And then the UN it began functioning as a corporation and extending this immunity by association to contractors. And they even formed contracts with the CIA. And so then we had a rogue organization claiming immunity because of a contract with the United Nations operating on our soil.
They don't have the authority to do that.
Within our own government. And that's why I've been bringing forward the fact that legislation does not overcome public law, and it especially doesn't overcome the Constitution, and it does not overcome the prerogative of the people on the land and soil to prosecute anybody they like who happens to be in their country. And it doesn't matter how many corporations want to give themselves a free pass. The same applies to Mr. Trump giving actually honoring the legislation of Congress that gave carte blanche guarantees to the pharmaceutical corporations. What actually happened back in 1986, which RFK has covered on several occasions, is that the Congress gave the pharmaceutical companies a carte blanche indemnity and immunity from suit or damages claims brought as a result of vaccines that these pharmaceutical companies produced. And the entity that was responsible then for paying damages was the U.S. Congress Incorporated, which went bankrupt. And then, so we have this on the books, carte blanche coverage and immunity for the pharmaceutical corporations, no matter what they do, no matter what they put in those vaccines, including pig's blood. And then we have no specific corporation that is responsible for the damages, because the original corporation that made that guarantee has been bankrupted for 40 years. It no longer exists. So they've just played a huge commercial crime against the people of this planet and think they're going to get away with it. But as I pointed out, legislation is not law. And what you've all been taking as law is in fact not law. It's codes, it's statutes, it's ordinances.
It's legalism.
It's legalese, it's bullshit. It's supposed to apply only to the employees and corporations that are organized as franchises under these parent corporations operating in the District of Columbia and New York City. So they've been setting up their own little hegemony in violation of the Constitution, in violation of the actual public laws, and they've been getting away with it by pretending that their legislation was the equivalent of law, and nobody asked for whom. And now we're getting down to the grips of the for whom. And we're taking that directly out into the world forum so that the people of the planet can see how we've all been hornswoggled by these commercial corporations that actually have no right to exist. Okay, so it's time, folks, for us to educate ourselves, educate our children, educate our neighbors, educate everyone including the police, including the military, including the political officers who, for the most part, have no education that would allow them to see this. And so that's been a great part of what I've been doing the past couple of weeks, even though I haven't had a voice. But I've been keeping busy bringing this forward to the attention of the median courts, the ones in the middle, because the local courts, the municipal courts that are supposedly the courts of the local government, though in fact they're not our local government, know nothing. And their state equivalents know very little more. And they're both foreign. And so I'm having to teach them law that they should have learned in law school, but didn't. Conveniently, never took that course, never studied that area of law. And I will submit to you that I firmly believe that this was just part and parcel of the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers and all the other rotten no good necks out there, making sure that people were kept ignorant even within all the professional classes. So anyway, we've got some problems that have to be cleaned up, one of which is the international organization's immunity or supposed immunity legislation. That needs to be vetoed and removed by Mr. Trump immediately. So is the generalized ignorance and idea that code, statutes, and regulations and ordinances and mandates are law. They're not law for us. They may be law for corporations. They may be law for the elected political officers attached to those corporations. It may be law for people who are actually employed by those corporations. But otherwise, it's the old shtick, like Terry and I always described it to you. It's like somebody walking up to you on the street corner, grabbing you by the shoulder and saying, "Why aren't you at work?" What? You know, you're supposed to be at Wendy's flipping burgers. Huh? What? No, I'm not. You know, I'm not a Wendy's employee. Thank you very much. And it's that kind of thing where they're trying to pretend that you are getting federal income, that you are a federal employee, that you are a federal dependent, and that you are therefore required to operate under their corporate law. But in fact, you never gave them any permission to use your given name for any public purpose. And they are grossly presuming upon you in violation of the Vienna Conventions that absolutely guarantee everyone's right to self-declaration. So all of these officers are in contravention of the constitutions. They're acting in contravention of international law. And a great part of the confusion is the idea that all Americans are in fact British subjects and all Americans are in fact citizens of the United States, meaning the old Holy Roman Empire that really actually no longer exists. And except, you know, in a very minuscule way. So all of this is based on impersonation and substitution of identity. If you want the specific name of the crime, it's aggravated identity theft. And they're all guilty of it. And I don't know about you, but I'm sick of it. I'm sick of having it imposed upon me, presumed upon me, or in any way finessed. And those who are responsible for it should not be allowed to continue under the presumption that they have some sort of immunity conveyed by the same people responsible for the abuse.
Well, we're in an entire system of these unlawful presumptions, and it happens at every level. I mean, you brought up the National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act of 1986 a little bit ago, and how those responsible for vaccine injuries would be the US Congress.
Right. And this is what I found throughout, Michelle. If they get away with one little thing, then they will, use that again and again and again until they're stopped.
Right.
And they have no right or authority to grant themselves immunity for committing crimes. I'm sorry.
Right.
They have no such authority. They have no such immunity. And it's time for the rest of us to get our hackles up. And
yeah, even in their crooked system, there's no permission for them to act even more crooked than they already are.
right, they've been giving themselves the right, according to them, they've legislated immunity from criminal law. And that's not doable. You cannot legislate to legalize crimes.
You know what? That should be a bumper sticker, right? Okay.
Think about it. If criminals could legalize crime, where would we be? Well, we're getting there right now, okay?
We're already there.
Yeah. And this is what we've been dealing with is criminals legalizing crime. Criminals licensing criminal activity to other criminals and getting kickbacks. Criminals licensing crimes. And it began, unfortunately, with the central banks. They legalized commodity rigging. And commodity rigging is a crime under Title 15. It's a crime internationally. And yet they, quote unquote, legalized it with the stroke of a legislative pen. But the point is that you can't legislate to legalize crimes. And so they've been getting away with this, and they think that they have a right to do this because they got away with it and nobody called them up. Nobody grabbed hold of both ears and said, no, you can't. But, the fact is that they can't. They cannot legalize crimes. And this is a fundamental thing. You cannot legalize murder. You cannot legalize commodity rigging. It's not within the authority of any legislative body to do that.
Wow. Well, with all the stuff that's going on right now, there's a tug of war happening in the internet space in regards to all the data you've been telling us about for several years now regarding the pending results of the giant experiment known as the COVID-19 vaccine paradigm and all the people that are dying from it. We're finally seeing all these huge numbers coming out, and there are people on this, like, they're just waiting it out. They're waiting it out like a wolf with a canary in its mouth, just like do 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 do. We're just waiting it out long enough for the sort of internet takeover of all avenues of common communication methods.
Well, one of the things we can do, Michelle, right now is we can boycott it.
Absolutely, 100%. Yes. I think when people hear, they're comfortable with the term democracy, right? This majority rule paradigm that doesn't work in our paradigm, in our reality, which is the law, which is the laws of nature and nature's God. There's no majority that can take our rights away, our natural rights away without us, unless we caused harm, right, to somebody else. But
right.
The fact of the matter is we're seeing it all the time, that because we're not quite there yet in bridging this gap between the truth and de facto what's happening, like what we're seeing with our eyes, the things that are happening. In fact, there's all these people that appear to be in charge, even though they're not. They don't have the funding anymore. They don't have the authority. we're awake and around to say, no, you can't do that. This is not okay. We're not going to tolerate it anymore. So there's this little bit of a Donnybrook, and I just want to encourage everybody that's on the call and listening to the playback that this is like we've got the architecture, we're building the house, we see the plans, and the house just isn't quite built yet, and that's okay, right? We have to just stick with the plans and keep going. We have to keep going because sometimes it feels that as though this is some sort of a game. This is not a game.
No.
This is real life. People are losing their lives, their homes, their jobs, all sorts of things, losing people that they love, while they're waiting for some savior to come and save the day. And although I do believe that there is our savior, in a supernatural way, there's also our work to do where we stand up and say, we're not going to tolerate that anymore. We're absolutely not going to allow evil to continue because we can't acquiesce. Acquiescence is permission.
Right.
Right. And so we no longer will acquiesce to all of these layers and layers and layers of perpetrators. But sometimes it feels big. Anna, you're dealing in international matters. You can talk about what's happening. You talked about Africa and the issues with the QR code, right? So your eyes are on things that are not happening in our own little backyards. And at the same time, we're called to work locally and get the job done, and to assemble. So sometimes we get caught up in international matters when our concerns should be here, close by, and immediate. So with that being said, what would be your best advice for men and women listening to this call who are obviously answering the call? They're here, whether they're live or listening to the playback. They're here, and they want to know, after status correction, what do we do to keep our eyes on the ball? How can we stay focused when it feels like, oh my gosh, it feels like you're in a batting cage with the mechanism that just keeps shooting the balls. And the balls are things like there's no accountability, and cops are arresting people for no reason, and the IRS guy is at the door, and people are losing their jobs and their sickness. And so people get overwhelmed. And so,
Well, yeah, and that's their tactic. They
yes,
come at us as individuals and pick us off one by one, and they scare everybody doing that. And what we should be doing in return is picking them off one by one.
boom.
We should be going after bad judges. We should be going after exposing crooked police forces.
Mm.
We should be going after exposing illegal property taxes, like Max Wexler.
Yeah,
Yes, we need to, each and every one of us, become like a transmitting tower going bah, 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 24/7 to everybody who will listen. We should be using all the forms of communication that we have. We should be grabbing young people by the ear and saying, look, kitty, it's going to be your world next. So listen up, break that barrier, break that media barrier. And let me tell you, word of mouth is still much more effective than any media that they've got. The simple business of talking to your neighbors and bringing forward stuff to their attention that they need to know is much more effective than the television, the radio, the internet, or any of this media stuff, because nothing quite counts as much as having a real live person there talking to you.
This is true. I've observed this myself. It's absolutely true. Yeah.
Well, and I went to get tires changed, right? We had a vehicle that had missed the tire changeover date because nobody had been available to take it to the shop and get the tires changed over to summer tires. So I was sitting in the waiting room there at the tire dealership, and I looked around the room, here were these 5 men, and we're all in there waiting for our cars or trucks, and they were all on their phones. They were zoning out. They were, interacting with the thing instead of with the people. So one of them had a dog, and I made friends with the dog. And then the dog, became a focus point for the master to be concerned. And so I started talking to the master. And of course, the topic revolved around current events. And then the next guy got involved. He stopped looking at the machine, right? And started tuning into the conversation. And then the next guy kind of poked up and looked around. Oh, yeah. What about that? And then finally, all of the people in that room started talking to each other instead of looking at the miniature boob tube in their hand.
That's awesome.
And this is what we all have to do. We all have to, jerk away the little miniature boob tube and get back to talking to each other. And we need to do that fast. Now, in Ireland this week, they had continued riots, continued burning of hotel and apartment complexes. Huge. The people took over the entire country. The military and the police were helpless. And all of the churches, both Protestant and Catholic, I think it's something like 514 years that the Irish Catholics and the Irish Protestants have been against each other officially, right? And so they declared a truce in the first time for over 500 years of fighting with each other.
Oh.
And the Catholics and the Protestants went out in the streets together with one united goal of getting rid of the immigrants. And the churches, both Protestant and Catholic, said, okay, we've declared a truce. It started out with a 48-hour truce and went to a 96-hour truce. All the young men, 18 and above, hit the streets. Now, if you know anything about Ireland, you know that there are two churches. There are always at least two churches more than the number of pubs in a county.
I didn't know that.
If you want to, once you get to that top, if you want a liquor license, you have to build another church.
Oh, that's awesome. But those are the kinds of churches where you have to go to confession on Sunday, right? Yeah.
Well, or they could be Protestant. It still has to be two more churches than the number of pubs. But anyway, so when the churches of Ireland unite against a common threat and tell the people to go out in the street and riot, that should tell you something. It certainly told Keir Starmer's government something. And, I think that we have it in our power to learn enough of the ropes of their system and to make advantage of enough to create the kind of groundswell that is needed to put an end to all of this nonsense. But we have to get motivated. We have to take it seriously. We can't just sit on our couches and think somebody else is going to do it.
Well, and this is where it gets tricky, right? Because people are often distracted by international matters. And I'm not saying that international matters don't matter. They do. Okay.
Well, yeah,
But go ahead.
when I'm talking about international matters, I'm talking on this particular broadcast to coordinators, and I'm hoping that the coordinators are going to go home and take that international news to the people in their assembly. And everybody's going to be kept up to date on international news. But by me telling you what I'm seeing out there, I want you to take it and take it back to your people and give them an update, right? And I'm also trying to bring a different perspective to the news that you are getting, because I can guarantee you that the media is not giving the news to you like I am. They, even if they know what the news out there is, they're not coming back and telling you. They're under gag orders, okay? And so, for example, our media is presenting the resolution of the quote unquote war in Iran as a great victory for Mr. Trump. But anybody who's sober can read the 14-point memorandum and laugh and think, no, this is a definite handing it to you on a platter event for the US military, because they gained nothing and they're paying $300 billion in reparations. Or rather, they're trying to make us pay $300 billion in reparations.
Yeah, not going to happen.
So, this is a situation where everything is being politicized. The media is being politicized to make it sound like some great American victory, when in fact it was a complete and utter useless rout. Just a huge expense of money for no good purpose. And the 300 billion, by the way, is not the cost of the war. That's just the reparations to Iran to rebuild infrastructure in Iran that was destroyed.
Well, what gets under my goat, Anna, is when we have these subcontractors of subcontractors of subcontractors that go out and destroy countries in order that they can get the contract to rebuild. It's
right.
It's like they run out of money or
Right.
whatever it is, and then they're like,
Right.
oh, we got to go break something, and then our little shell company is going to be hired because they've got the licensing and the permits and the favors, right, to go get hired to go rebuild.
Right, just like Lady Bird Johnson's company being the one to mine Haiphong Harbor. It's the same kind of duplicity on the part of the military. The military made all of these contracts and had all of these, different missile intercept programs that had become they were obsolete because of drone technology and because of guided missile technology. So those standing installations were like medieval castles. They were completely useless. They could not respond accurately enough or fast enough. And the military knew that, and the governments in the Middle East that had spent billions on these systems and installations were unaware until they actually had to use them and try to defend against Iranian guided missiles. And so what they did is they destroyed all of those systems. It's a cost of war. And Mr. Trump was the one who caused the war. So therefore, the American people are supposed to pay the war reparation. You see?
Yeah.
This was nothing but a way to try to gouge us.
Well,
and of course, I'm not a popular person.
That happens in war, that happens in medicine, that happens in weather warfare, that happens in water wars. I mean, it's happening everywhere, right? So, yeah.
It's make work.
Yes. Yep.
Make work for the military. And it has to stop.
Yeah.
And I'm not a very popular person. The entire move to remove me as a trustee for the Avila Family Trust was based on the military not being happy with my response to their quote unquote war in Iran, calling it for what it is, a mercenary attack and an abuse of our Title IV flag, and hell no, we don't wish to pay for any of it. They didn't want to hear that.
Right.
So, but it needs to be said, and someone needs to say it, because otherwise they just go on spending your money to make money for themselves. And this is a treasonous betrayal and breach of trust all down the line. And I'm sorry, all of those of you who love Donald Trump. Donald Trump has done some good things, but he hasn't nixed the International Organizations Immunity Act. He did not avoid the war, quote unquote, in Iran. He went right full bore into it, spent up to his nipples in it, and then came back and expected us to pay for it, when actually he was acting as a contractor of Germany and Israel on a mercenary contract. And I've explained to you how this works. Other governments and even other industries, like the oil industry, will go to the USA Inc., or now the USA LLC, and say, okay, well, we need this done. Some dirty job, we need a regime change in Libya. Okay? And then the quote unquote American president, who's actually operating as a British flag officer, a commander in chief, right, in the British Navy, get it? Says, okay, well, for such and such amount of money, we'll go over here and we'll bomb the hell out of Libya, and we'll send land forces inland, and we'll cause a regime change in Libya and decimate the country and take their gold, and we'll do all this nastiness to Libya at your behest, and so they get paid for doing this. The other countries or the oil magnates or whoever's doing the deal pays them to go do that. And they trump it up in the papers and they say, oh, well, we have to remove this dangerous dictator, and make some specious argument that it has something to do with our country. Like, we actually send mail to Libya. So we have to go bomb Libya off the map because it's endangering our mail deliveries in Libya, with no proof of anything ever, right? They make this big statement trying to justify it as a defense of our country, when of course it's nothing of the sort. It's a contract at the behest of foreign industries and foreign governments. And they're taking a subcontract, they're doing a job on the side and getting paid for it up front. And they go over there and then they say that it's to defend our country, which it's not. It's to fulfill this other contract they had. And they charge off all their expenses to us, plus war reparations to the other country to rebuild after they've destroyed all this. So you see, they're sitting in the middle, getting paid up front as a contractor to go do this. Then they're charging off all their expenses, plus all of the war reparations, onto our backs, using the excuse that it's in defense of America. And that's just plain bull, what. So this is a game they've been playing for over 100 years and getting away with it. And, here I am saying, to hell you Beller, that has nothing to do with our defense. There's absolutely nothing historically indicating that our forefathers included anything in Libya as defense of our country. And you can take the Monroe Doctrine and stuff it, because Monroe was acting as a Brit when he did that. So, sorry. Nobody likes me. Nobody likes me.
Well, there's
Guess I'll eat a worm.
172 on this call that do. So
Three that hate me just as much.
You know, it's but we deserve to be loved because we're the ones that are doing the right thing. We're the ones that are opting for peace. We're the ones that are hauling back and saying no, no, no. Okay. And so actually, we are the government and they're not. I mean, it's just as simple as that. And they're under obligation to provide us not just with service, but with good faith service. Is this good faith to operate like this? No, it most certainly is not. And that's why they call for nationalization of all of these corporations. Now, the majority interest should determine the nationalization. But of course, they have mistaken all of us as British subjects, and they've mistaken all of us as citizens of the United States too, municipal citizenry. And until this gets straightened out, it looks like they have the majority of the people of this country backing them. When in fact, the majority of the people in this country have no idea what's being said about them behind their back. Just like I would have had no idea what was being said about me and about the trusteeship of the Avila Family Trust if I hadn't had, let's say, exceptional intelligence. And so they basically get together and they say, oh, but these are all British subjects, so of course. And then they set it up so that in order for you to get your inheritance and to get your restitution, you have to admit to being a British citizen, a U.S.C citizen, to get your FedNow account. And they're using all of these coercive means already. They're trying to do it in Africa right now. They're trying to force people to join an organization that is an incorporated version, which was never authorized, of our New Earth Alliance that Julius and I legitimately set up as an unincorporated business. So anyway, they're trying their old tricks. They're trying the old switcheroo, oh, it's a corporation called this, masquerading as an unincorporated business. And they're trying to use similar names to defraud everybody again. And I'm afraid that it's just not going to stop until we all just get very mouthy and make it very clear that, hey, bub, we are on to you. We know what you're doing. We know how you're doing it. And we object. But anyway, while I've still got some voice left, folks, I better answer some questions.
All right. Well, Anna, we have 7 hands up. And just before we get to calling on the first hand, I want to know what timeline we have with you. It's almost 10 minutes after the top of the hour. So it's like almost 10 minutes after 6 for you. So what would be a good time to wrap it up so I know how much time to give our speakers?
Well, let's try to give them each 5 minutes. And if I can last that long, we'll be good.
Perfect. Okay, everybody heard that. I'm going to get my timer going and we're going to go ahead and get started with Mike McGowan. And when the time is up, everybody, I just want to pull up what it's going to look like when your time is up. So please pay attention to the screen. I'm going to go like this. Okay, does everyone see the little clock? When that little clock goes up, that means it's been 5 minutes, and we're just going to do our best to stay on time. Go ahead, Mike McGowan.
Thank you. Hey, Anna, I sent you that the DOST about the white flag protocol that I'm trying to get spread out on the internet. And anyway, I'm going to use it. We have a small issue in our assembly. It's got a couple of legs to it, but anyway, we have some questions on what is a recorder and what is a recording committee, because I know recently you had stated, and maybe it was 6 months ago, but that a recorder does not need to be or isn't in office because you're just affirmed by the assembly that you're putting things on the record. That's not really an office. And you can't really unaffirm somebody because then that you would destroy the records that are put into place. So I think I'm getting it, but we have others that aren't, and they're rejecting the idea of change to build things that are better. And so anyway, it's kind of created a mess, and they're not seeing the light. So I'm hoping to we're going through outreach and or not outreach, oversight, and kind of put it in facts and findings and send it off to the Federation to hopefully get a little insight into the fact that recorder is not in office.
The
Yes?
the LRO, access to the LRO is supposed to be determined in the build-up stage by the assembly and the coordinator. It's supposed to be a joint thing where, recorders are trained, recorders are approved in terms of their training, and then they are put to work. Right?
Right.
And so if you've got a recorder that isn't doing the work correctly, then you have every right to remove them.
Right. But yeah, and that's not really what the issue is. The issue is they don't want to change to do other things, to build a system that runs in parallel and provides more access so that we can have, addresses and GPS attached to land records. And so they want to stop it. So they met in secret without putting things on the record, and met with people that weren't affirmed recorders on the record, and trying to block things. And it's like, well, we're trying to create a public record where everybody has access, and we can self-subscribe to committees, because we've built a WordPress based website where members that have gone back to the land have access, and so they can edit and add and see information there, and that becomes a place where we can self-subscribe by changing our email address and selecting the list that we want to be on for being on committees. And so they disregard that so that they can go do their private things and then put on the record that they voted against something. So it's more of an education and trying to figure out what it is we're doing. But it's kind of, reached a stumbling block because they're not inviting people that understand how the system works, and they're not inviting them to the meetings. And so I basically have stood up and said, hey, I'm not coming to the meetings until we resolve this issue, because people have expressed their intent, and if you disregard that, that's harm.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, that's where we're at. So we just need a little bit of guidance to affirm the fact that people should be allowed to self-govern and should be allowed to join committees.
Absolutely. The more
So anyway,
volunteers, the better.
that'll be coming your way. I apologize. I've been trying very hard to get it resolved over the last couple of months, but we just can't seem to get a handle around it. All of us. And I think they're rejecting it more because it's change, and they don't want to hear that I proposed it.
Well, ultimately, you're supposed to have your own land recording office. And you are supposed to be able to volunteer for committees. And if anybody is keeping you from volunteering for a committee, they're in the wrong.
Absolutely.
Another little point for all the coordinators and coordinator trainees out there. Coordinators are not supposed to interfere in the functioning of any committee unless they're doing something unlawful, like planning an insurrection. Okay.
Right.
But they're not supposed to be interfering in the functioning of committees. Committees
Right.
are
And
what we want and need. So I just
right.
saw
And so, yeah. So if it's a recording committee, they're saying, well, that has to meet in secret because they're doing things with people's data. And it's like, well, you have a recording committee that's public, everybody gets invited to. And if you need to work with a specific person's data, then you, on the record, tell people you're going to go off and work and resolve this issue, resolve it, and then come back and report back to the committee and say, it's fixed. We've made remedy. And so you just have to put all that on the public record so that you know who was invited to the committee meeting and then who went off to meet in private to handle the situation. And when you put all that on the record that all members can see, then you've created a proper public record.
well, I won't disagree with you, Mike. I think that, anything that smacks of, the need to protect individual privacy has to weigh against public responsibility. And when you are creating a
Right.
public record, you have to ask yourself, well, what's not public about that record?
Exactly. And so if you can't see that, I mean, we grew up with, we had to use our text messaging and our private emails to get going. But then we evolved beyond that to a public record where everybody can access. And I see the little clock, so I'm going to yield and thank you. I'll send that off to you.
Okay, well, I'm sure we'll get down to the bottom of it all of the, but just generally saying, there are issues here that need to be addressed, and hopefully we'll get a straight answer out of everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, next up we have Gerda on British Columbia. Go ahead, Gerda.
Yes, thank you so much. And hello, everybody. My question has to do with the talk that was recently held about the federation-like entity in Canada so that the people would be able to speak with one voice. And we're very much in our group in favor of that. And we're wondering if you would advise that we hold elections to put forth the best people for this federation entity.
It certainly is a traditional thing to do, to name a delegation of people to represent your group to the federation level body. That would not be at all improper. It does help put the accountability on certain people so that they are recognized as representing your assembly and as being responsible for bringing back information to your assembly. We certainly do that with our coordinators. Part of the intent of this call is to inform the coordinators and train them and bring them up to date for current information. So in theory, you should be playing the same kind of role where the international affairs are being brought back to the local assemblies.
So potentially we might have a coordinator for each province come together to form the federation. Yes, I think that's the model we're very much interested in.
Well, or, a committee of people, or a delegation of 3 or 4 people or 5, or, the founding fathers here had a delegation of 3 people from each colony.
Mm.
And that seemed to work pretty well. because you couldn't have a stalemate. You had to have a decision with all three voting, right? So I think rather than just one person, I would go for three people at least to form a delegation.
Lovely. That's very helpful. Thank you so much.
Take care, Gerda.
Okay.
Thank you, Gerda. Okay, next up we have Renee Marie on Oakland, Michigan.
Hi, Anna. I'm glad to see you're doing better today. I just have a follow-up question from last week because when I brought the answer back about the voting and members, people weren't happy with the response because you specifically answered it talking about elections, but I was actually talking about during the building process. So what we really need clarity knowing is that, and I think other states need to know this as well, is are all ASNs able to vote in the voting process during the assembling phase or just members?
Well, in theory, if an ASN wants to come to an assembly meeting and it's an in-state issue, they have a right to vote. The fact is that those people who have chosen not to be part of the assembly don't know about assembly meetings and don't show up. So I don't really know why this is such a cause for concern.
I don't think it's concerning. I think we're just trying to figure out who's able to vote during the building phase. If it's just members or if it includes all ASNs, if, you know,
They're called talesmen. They're not official members of the assembly, but they're fully eligible and papered up. And they are members of the public and they can vote. An assembly is not a club. It does not function like a club. It's not a members only organization. It serves a public. If the public wants to be involved, we have to let the public in the door. And it's just that simple. Now, our public is defined as all the people who have corrected their political status and are standing on the land and soil. So yes, they do have to be papered up. They do have to have made their declaration, right? They have to have established their intent. If they haven't done that, then no, they're not part of our public.
so for
Does that
clarity,
help?
if they have corrected their status and they haven't joined the assembly, they still get a vote.
If they show up and vote, yes, they do.
Okay, thank you. I yield.
Thank you, Renee Marie. Okay, John Russell, go ahead.
Good evening, Anna.
Good evening, John.
Well, I got some great news for you today. We just got ourselves accepted for the 4th of July at the Peach Festival here in Gilbert, South Carolina. So we're going to have our booth there and we're going to be knocking them down and dragging them out of there and making Americans out of them. So I just wanted to let you know that. And I had one question about it. We have our state flag and of course we have our peace flag. Which one would be higher than the other one? I say the state flag is higher. Am I correct?
Generally speaking, no.
Ah.
That's in an international forum. But since you are in South Carolina doing an event in South Carolina, you would have your state flag, and you probably wouldn't even fly the peace flag. The peace flag might be there standing in a stand. You understand?
Yeah.
But you're not acting in an international capacity when you're within the borders of your own state. So in state, the state flag flies above.
All righty. I thank you and have a good night. I appreciate it.
Take
How
care.
you? Bye.
And I love that you guys did that. Congratulations.
Yes.
That's awesome. That's the kind of community outreach we need to be visible in the public like that. All right.
That's the kind of report I love. When I
Yeah.
get positive news back, I'm loving it, right?
Yes. And actually, even though, the Constitution isn't our document, I have learned it really is a foot in the door for people who consider themselves to be like constitutionalists, or they love Constitution Week or Constitution Day. And now that we're getting close to 4th of July, that's the next thing, right?
They love their rights guaranteed under the Constitution. They just don't know that they're being cheated out of those rights by being misidentified.
Exactly. I would say disidentified. All right. All right, Tamara, go ahead, Tamara.
Hi, everyone. This is Tamara from Nevada.
Tamara.
That's okay. That's okay. Everyone calls me differently, but it is Tamara. I have a question, and it has to do with the state national passport. I have one now, and my daughter also has one now. But the question is about the signature. Do we write anything above our signature? Does it matter what color ink? Do we have to do a thumbprint? And does it matter if you were born in America or not?
Yes, to all the above. You indicate your the way that you sign passports matters, because it shows not only what jurisdiction you're inhabiting, but also you're also showing your ownership of your name. So you want to sign using a probably the best thing to do at this point is to use a purple ink, and to use the little handmade copyright symbol at the end of your name,
Okay.
and then put your thumbprint in red ink over the top.
Oh, okay.
And you want to get it right over that copyright symbol and the actual signature, so that you are claiming all of it.
Okay, so the thumbprint goes above it, not on any of the lettering.
No, it actually goes on the signature. It
Okay.
goes over the signature.
Okay.
I don't mean physically over, I mean the ink actually touches the ink of the signature.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Go get them.
I placed an
Thank you.
example, Anna, I placed an example of that in the chat for
Good.
so she
Oh, thank you
can
so much, Lisa.
Thank you, Lisa. Yeah, and Lisa has the canceled stamp on there too, which is great. All right, Marlene on Washington. Go ahead, Marlene, you're up.
Hi, Anna.
Hi, Marlene.
How are you, sweetie?
I'm
You
getting
look
better.
beautiful today. I'm glad. Quick question. This really doesn't have anything to do with recording secretary stuff, but I'm been hearing a lot about private property, private investment groups that are controlling our stock market. And can you give us some insight a little bit on that? Because it's kind of freaking a lot of people out. And I yield.
Everything in the stock market is completely rigged. Okay. It's been rigged 10 ways to Sunday, and absolutely nobody should be in the stock market at this point unless they're gambling with money they can afford to lose. Okay. And I've said that for a long time. It's not, if you've got a small amount of money and you just want to play and accept the risk, okay, go ahead and play. But by no means should anybody be seriously investing anything in this stock market. It's all tongue in cheek. It's entirely rigged, 100%. And it's been rigged in many different ways. All those stocks are grossly overvalued, meaning that you're paying more for the stock share than the actual company is worth and capitalized. Okay. So the actual value of stock, ABC stock, might be $10 and you're paying $100, and then the margin is just being forced higher by reinvestment in that company by the company, and by reinvestment by pension funds that have nothing else to invest in. And the big problem that has shown up recently are that the pension funds have nowhere else to invest. That's why we've got this gigantic bubble in tech stocks and like things like SpaceX. That's why everybody piles on any new investment opportunity, because they basically lost any new things to invest in. And so there's this huge pressure on the stock market to go higher and higher and higher and higher, whether there's anything supporting it in terms of value or not. And one of the big problems that we're having is that they've put all this money into IT companies, thinking that IT was the next thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And these IT companies are mainly just ideas. When you get down and you start looking at what they really are offering, they've got some grand idea that doesn't actually exist yet. And they're capitalizing their idea using investment in stock. Well, that's legal. Anybody
Right.
can jump on and bet on the horse, right?
Yes.
The problem is when people don't know that they're betting on a horse.
Right.
And sometimes people don't understand that about these, new investment opportunities where they hope to make 1,000 times what they put in. Or, you see these advertisements like, you can buy SpaceX for this much and it's expected to, increase to
Right.
this much. And at a certain point, just the prior success of companies like, Elon Musk's wealth, okay, people get drawn to that, like, iron filings to magnets, thinking, well, follow that guy because he's obviously got something going, right?
Yeah.
Well, sure, Elon Musk has got something going. Right now, it's your investments backing his technological
Correct.
inventions. But
Yes.
all of that is being sunk into development. It's not actually producing anything. And there's where the
Right.
problem is that you're not producing anything yet. Okay.
Well, the private equity thing I'm concerned about, and the reason why I say that is because I'm also in touch with Mitch Bexler, and he has been emailing me back and forth, and I'm working on some things within our county to start going to city council meetings, the sheriff's meetings, the whatever meetings, to figure this out, because we have an influx of all of a sudden all of these hundreds of apartment buildings and over 4,000 new homes. Well, who's building them? They're these private equity firms and then they're just cheap ass houses and apartments, and then they just take their money and run, and that's it. It's out.
Right. Well, and this is exactly what happened in China. If we want to avoid what happened in China, then we have to stop this right now.
Yeah,
We have to recognize what's going on
exactly.
and boycott it. better to have your money in your pocket than to have it in a bad investment.
Correct.
Think of all of those people in China who, bought into 30-year mortgages
I know.
thinking that they were going to have a home. And
Yeah.
for years working on the factory line, paying a mortgage on a house they weren't even living in. And then,
Sad deal.
come to find out, in many cases, the houses were never built. The
Yeah.
houses were built in substandard fashion. With
Michelle's kicking me off.
I'm not kicking off. I'm just keeping everybody informed.
I know. I love it. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Anna. I
Take care.
appreciate it.
And
Take care.
before you get off there, this is a very important topic because one of the things that I've witnessed with my own eyes is that these developers develop very cozy relationships with local municipal city councils and their local partners for economic development and their local tourism bureaus and chambers of commerce and da 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 da. And what they do is they have these important meetings with the local builders and they end up creating these alliances of like, hey, we want to build 120 units of affordable housing and we need all of you guys to say yes. And so go to the city council and help us to do this, right? And then they all do this, right? And it's like a big, but really the developers are the ones that are getting paid and probably the politicians as well. But I love that you're working with Mitch Vexler.
Michelle, can I add something to that real quick?
Yeah.
In this deep dive that this podcaster, he's 32 years old. He's been studying the private investment or private whatever equity groups, and he said that the ones that he knows of right now, and he's diving deeper into it. But I'll put the thing in the chat. That these private equity groups have bought all the hospitals, 482 hospitals in the United States, and over 10,000 nursing homes. And they are actually going for the boomers, the baby boomers, because the baby boomers have the most money. We hold like over 51 or 52% of the income in the United States. And that's what they're trying to do. They're also touching on all of the fast clinics, like walk-in clinics and medical and pharmaceuticals. So they are nasty. But I'll send you the information on
And they ought to be arrested.
Yeah, they're evil. They're terrible.
You know what? Please do forward that, like you just said, Marlene. That's important data because not only are they doing that, but they were right there at the ready with Chinese investors during like the Big Short, like right after the 2008 housing bubble popped. And all of those people that put all of their life savings into a down payment, whether it was a couple $1,000s all the way up to tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars. They put their money down, got these loans that the banks knew were going to be unaffordable, and they had a short amount of time to live in these homes, and then the rates adjusted. And then they couldn't afford to stay in these homes. And the banks came in and swooped in and took all these properties, emptied them out, sold them off at auction to these developers. So you're onto something really big there, Missy. And I think that it's important for everybody to pay attention because the baby boomers are, I would say, a canary in the coal mine.
We're going to get them.
Bam. Thank you, Anna. Boots on the ground. All right, moving on to Rebecca. But by the way, thank you, Rebecca, for your Saturday morning calls. Take it away. It's all yours.
Thank you, Michelle. Hi, Anna. How are you?
I'm fine. I needed to get back and try to straighten out something. You don't have any delegated fiduciary responsibility as a coordinator. I just want everybody to know that. You do have a position within your state as an ASN, and you're also a, federal liaison or federation liaison, I should say. We're not federal, we are the federation that gives federal what they are. But anyway, I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that.
Thank you. Yeah, I do have a couple of questions around that. So we had a committee that was pretty dysfunctional, throwing people out, and there was a lot of fighting on it. They were also having meetings that they didn't invite members to, So what the coordinators did on our state was they requested that this committee pause and take a look at how they were handling things and if they could come back with a more unbiased or fair kind of way. And actually, we actually asked our trainer, Lisa, about this, and she helped us. And she actually came in and helped our assembly and brought us some clarity on this. So I'm just checking with you because just earlier I heard you say coordinators cannot go and interfere, I think was the word you used, with a committee.
They shouldn't interfere with committees unless there's, something obvious that the committee is doing that's wrong.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So that's
No,
that is what we thought as well. We want the committees to be full. We want to encourage the committees, want to help out the committees, want to give them anything they need so they can get up and running. And that is what we were doing, except on this one particular one, there was some just violations and unfairness and throwing people out for no reason at all. So that just didn't work. And they refused to change their course. So we actually needed help from outside, and it was a big brouhaha, honestly, and hopefully we've gotten through it and we can move forward. But some people are still on the chain, the email chain. Everybody here knows about the email chains. And they're quite aggressive and attacking the coordinators for calling for 2-week pause to check into what they were doing and to adjust. Which anyway, so there's that. I would love to hear Lisa as well speak about it because we were pretty clear about coordinators helping out the committees to do things well and be strong. And sometimes that does mean a course correction. So I think a pause of 2 weeks was requested. We did, and we were told that that was fine. So that's where we're at. Do you have anything else to add to that? Because I had one small question about something else.
well, the committees that you always want to kind of ride herd on in any assembly are the vetting committee, the ombudsman committee, and the oversight committee. And I understand that the incident there in North Carolina involved an oversight committee.
Correct.
Now, an oversight committee does have a reasonable cause if it's investigating a potentially criminal issue to maintain some privacy, because obviously if somebody's being accused of a crime, you are essentially within the structure of the assembly itself forming a sort of grand jury to find out if this person has really embezzled $800,000, whatever it is.
Sure. Yeah.
So the oversight committee does have reasons to keep certain functions or certain sessions private.
Okay,
that-
that wouldn't include throwing out regular members from a meeting and there's no investigation going on.
No, it would not.
Okay, so that was one of the corrections of the many. There were 5 things that were going on this committee, like removing people, not noticing hands up, not allowing others to look at the handbook, etc. That group needed just to take a look at. There were no accusations done by the coordinators, just can this committee take a look at what they're doing and pause for 2 weeks. That was it. And now we have a big, there's a big issue around it because of someone going back and forth and getting other information from you about basically what you just said, that they can't interfere. Well, there wasn't an interference. It was literally just guide rail. This is what we agreed on in our decorum. Try to follow it and we'll help you if you need help. And then, yeah, it's very upsetting for everyone. Honestly, we just really would love to move ahead with a peaceful path and work together instead of this constant, I got the information from someone important, you.
Well, look, I have said for many, 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 many months now that those are the three committees to watch because they are the bottlenecks. Those are the committees where people think that there is some sort of power where they can get in there and accuse other people and, create problems. And, so you want to watch those three committees like a hawk. And that is part of your obligation as a coordinator. The instruction given by the coordinators to take a 2-week break, especially since there were no ongoing investigations, and to examine their operations and what they were doing and how they were doing it, sounds really reasonable. The issue that was brought forward to me was that the General Assembly had already voted on
the ad hoc.
on establishing an ad hoc committee, and that was viewed as the answer to the question. If it was not necessary for us to have coordinators, and if it was not necessary for all of us to exercise some common sense, and if it was not necessary for us to stub our toes and fall down on our butts and learn to walk, then we wouldn't be in this situation. We wouldn't have coordinators. Everything would be running like a well-greased machine and everybody would know the answers to everything at all times. And there is nothing sacred about a vote to create an ad hoc committee to study a standing committee. That just, it was an action that, yes, the General Assembly could take, but in the current setting, it was taken as an alternative to accepting a correction that had already been made by the coordinators.
Correct.
And the point of having coordinators and to really working on the way that things should be done is so that you can function correctly and not be a corrupt piece of shit organization down the road.
Yep.
Because once everybody, excuse my French, folks, but
Love your French. Please continue.
You don't want your assembly to be controlled by personalities. You don't want anybody who's playing God. You don't want some little crony group. You don't want it managed like a private club. Okay, It's a public organization. I keep saying that, but I find that many people don't really have a clear idea about what's different, what makes something public and what makes something private. And to some degree, that is a deliberate, that has been obscured by our de facto de jure situation, because their public isn't our public. We're talking about different things, apples and oranges, okay? And yet one word, public, is being used to describe all of these different groups and their public versus our public. But in the essence of it is that we cannot function like they do. And if we do function like they do, then we become them, and all of the evils that we're trying to escape and to say no to and to reform, and the government that we're trying to restore becomes polluted with assumptions and practices of the de facto. And one of the practices of the de facto is to establish little crony groups and to, try to seize political power that in our assemblies does not exist. That doesn't keep them from trying to, seize hold of the vetting committee and dictate who can and cannot be an officer, who can run for office. Sure, they want to control that, just like the political parties control who gets to run for office. And that's something that they've learned from the de facto. But it doesn't apply to us. In our system, there isn't that kind of control through a vetting committee. They just see vetting and think, oh, there's a power position. I'm going to get in there and I'm going to get my friend Bob and we're going to dictate who can run for office. And they do the same thing with the Ombudsman Committee. Oh, I'm going to get my friend Pam and then we're going to get Carol and Joyce in here and we're going to, dictate how everything gets settled.
Right.
Well, and unfortunately, the oversight is one of the big three.
Yeah.
So may I, Anna?
Sure.
Because Rebecca asked me to weigh in. 100% agree with everything you have said. And I believe if you were looking over my shoulder when I said it, I said exactly what you said to the coordinators, to the assembly. It was a very much a power play. And it's one of those things where we have to realize on our assemblies that we really do mean no one is in charge. It has to be, we govern by committee, and that committee needs to function together. And
I have to take this, but go ahead.
And it's tremendously important that we do that with mutual respect and that we try to practice that golden rule, that we treat each other the way we want to be treated. And in this situation, there was a lot of breakdown of that on one side of the fence. And so, it's in the heat of the moment, everybody needs to take a step back and take a breath and remember that we are all sovereigns. We are all equal. They may be coordinators, you all may be coordinators, but you still have one vote on your assembly. You still have one voice on your assembly. Their voices collectively might outweigh yours, but individually they do not. Okay? So, even down to I received an email today that said, I did not invite you to a meeting and neither did the people. Well, pardon me, but I don't think this person was ever elected speaker. And I don't think they thought that they spoke for all the people. I think the people are tired of the fighting on North Carolina and on many of your assemblies. They want you to work together as a committee. And effective committees are at least 3 people. And it's not my way and the highway. It's our way. We find a way to go together. We may not always agree, but we find ways to incorporate everyone's ideas and everyone's desires and then present that to our assemblies for them to consent to, because we operate by consent of the people. Okay? So absolutely, this was a situation that got out of hand because everybody started jumping in and pulling sides and being, polarizing in one direction or the other. And not everybody had the facts. Not everybody had the points of view that they should have had. And frankly, there were a few that didn't want to hear anybody else's points of view. They wanted what they wanted when they wanted it. And so it's all of our assemblies do get into this situation, and you have to work through it with common sense, with kindness. We have to learn to be merciful and forgive each other, try to find our common ground, keep our mission in mind and move forward.
Yeah.
And I yield.
Thanks, Lisa. I did have one other tiny question, and then I don't know if I have any time, Michelle.
Well, I mean, listen, we're a big, and I always put the timer up. Well, I don't always put the timer up. I'm trying to be better at it. But you know, I don't see anyone objecting to the fact that we're going beyond 5 minutes right now. And we have two more hands up. I know Anna wanted to wrap up the questions in 35 minutes, which was 9 minutes ago, but she's not here right now. So
Yeah, there's an empty chair there. I did want to ask Anna this, but I'll just ask it and put it out in the ethers, and maybe the right way forward will come. If a elected officer leaves their position by resignation, or as Anna said in the past, like leaves the battlefield, you know, for a it was a thing. It happened all of a sudden. Okay. It just like all of a sudden, I don't like this. I'm resigning. Okay. So that wasn't the whole thing, but that was part of it. And so that person resigned. Sorry to use the word person. And then the week later, the person is encouraged to come back. How does it stand when an elected official walks? Like, if you're setting up a government, is that something that is encouraged? Are we to wait a year and a day, like in some of the how to build a assembly handbook? Do we just let that go and say, well, you can quit 1 week and come back the next week? That's fine, because we really need you and we really love you and it's all good, and we'll make up nicey nice now. It'll be fine. So how do we move forward, but where there's integrity for all? What's the best way to move forward? Does now everyone come back? Because if they left, if in the past, now it's okay to just come back now, and it's just a mood, you get what I'm saying? Is like, is there any structure around this? I yield.
yeah, I totally get what you're saying. And okay, so many assemblies are not fully stood up, right? So there are not official positions that are like on the public record, elections, da 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 da, you know, and everyone's trying to figure it out. So if you're in that phase, this is a dinner table kind of conversation where you get to agree, what are we going to tolerate here, people? Are we going to tolerate that once someone gets their feelings hurt, or they're upset about something, they're just going to hightail it off the field and leave us high and dry and say, that's it, I'm not helping you anymore. And then everyone gets to come and kiss your ass and beg you to come back. Is that the kind of government that we're looking for? Pardon my language. I apologize. Right? Is that what we're doing here? Okay. Or are we setting up a legitimate situation where people who commit actually commit? I don't know about you, but I'm sick and tired of people walking away every time they get their feelings hurt. It's ridiculous. We're not, in elementary school. We're not, in diapers. Okay, we're here to get a job done, and we got to put our feelings aside, roll our sleeves up, pull up our bootstraps, tie our shoes, and get with the freaking program. That's what we have to do.
Well, what does it do when you do that? Does it create stability? Does it create calm? Does it create integrity? Or does it create chaos and instability?
You mean if you have a dinner table conversation as a family and say, what should we do? Should we
No, I mean, obviously that's the answer, right? Is for anything is to come back to the table and talk about what you want to do. But like, if you get up and walk away with your feelings hurt and you resign your post, is that causing stability or instability? I mean, it's like a rhetorical question, but it's like, what are we choosing? We're building a building. Is it going to fall over every 2 days and then we're going to put it back up? Or how are we going to move forward?
No, and that's a great analogy. Everyone knows someone, if it hasn't happened to them, they know someone where, they hired a contractor to restore something or fix something or build something. And then they leave and you're calling the contractor and are you coming back? And did you cash my check? And where's my sink? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's not the kind of government we are here to restore. We're here to restore a functional, lawful government where people are here voluntarily. Now, that's where it gets a little wiggy, right? Right? Because people wake up in one morning and go, I don't feel like volunteering anymore. Well, listen, when they turn in their resignation, they're resigned. Okay, next.
Yeah, someone step up who can hold the post a little longer, maybe this
Who's ready to
time.
help? Yes. Who's ready to help? Honestly, not, for an hour or 2 hours or a day or a week or a month. Who's here to fulfill? Like, we need long-term volunteers here, especially those that end up going through an election process, however elementary the election process is. If everyone on your assembly recognizes that, yeah, we went through some kind of an election, hands up, ballots, showing up, whatever it is, and they're serving in a role, and everyone knows, oh, I'm just going to use a thing, you're our ombudsman. Okay, great. If they just hightail it out of there, that leaves everybody confused, and people who are not certain go, wait, should I be quitting? Am I doing the right thing? How's my lipstick? Like people get a little upset.
So
Okay.
may I, Michelle?
Go ahead, Lisa.
So, I mean, we faced this issue on our assembly as well on Ohio, and we went back to the General Assembly and discussed it. And the General Assembly said, unless someone has a wet ink signature resignation and they send that in, then they didn't consider them resigned until there was a wet ink signature, or unless they verbally stated it before the assembly. And so we went back and had our process and procedures committee draw up that resignation a little bit firmer, because we had a resignation process before, a little bit firmer. And we took it back to the General Assembly, and they voted that in as to exactly what you have to do. And if you don't do this, for example, if you just send a blank email that says, I quit, all right, and you don't have it signed, you don't have a letter, you don't have anything else in it, they have 24, they get an immediate email back. It says, you must qualify this, blah, blah, blah. Your resignation didn't include this information, and then we take that, and after 24 hours, we write them a letter back that says, thank you for your service. Your resignation has been accepted by the assembly. Right? And we also on Ohio put in with our elections, if you leave a post, if you leave a role, an elected role, I don't care whether it's chairman of a committee, chairman of an assembly, or any of the other officers, you're ineligible for any other elected position for a year and a day. And essentially what that does is that would take most people out of the election cycle for 2 years. Completely. Okay. So, it on the Ohio Assembly, if you're going to resign, you better be pretty serious about it. Okay.
Yeah,
Just
it's like a marriage, right? It's like, honey, you left the toilet seat up. That's it. I want a divorce. Right? Anyway, not speaking from personal experience. So I'm just saying, yeah, you've got to have clarity and certainty in what you're doing. And I love what the Ohio Assembly has decided to do. Right. And at the same time, there's this moment, right? Someone has a heated moment. That's it. I quit. They throw their beer bottle across the room. I don't know. And then tomorrow they've sobered up and they're going, that was really stupid. I apologize. I didn't put anything in writing though. I'm good. Right. So the whole in writing thing is important. But at the same time, if there are 2 or more witnesses that saw that man or woman resign, whether they were inebriated or of sound mind, that should still stand. even if you didn't get their letter yet,
Right?
it should stand, in my
Well,
opinion.
Wouldn't
Yeah.
it be only 2 witnesses needed?
I
This
mean,
was done in front of the entire assembly, so
there you
there
go.
was, there's that. But if it is in a group or there's 2 witnesses, I mean, that's our word, then common law that stands. Isn't that right?
It is
And
right.
I also think in the case, Rebecca, you also have to remember that right now in your assembly, there's some fractioned people and very hurt feelings. And I think it would be really good to go back to your assembly because you may find that that causes more controversy by just being autocratic too. Okay. So you want to be able to give it a good hearing. You want to be able to give it, good consideration and make sure that in the heat of this crazy moment that you all have had this week, that it's not being punitive, I guess is the way to say that. And you don't really have a process in place. So, but it's a good time to go ahead and get a process in place for the next time. And that's what I would
Yeah.
make
And
sure.
so going back to processes in place are your seatment documents in Tennessee's have been acknowledged and recognized as a government. So those are the processes that are really helpful. We need to, all agree on, like you say, it's more important to keep the assembly together than anything. So always err on the side of mercy if possible. Thank you
Yeah,
so much.
and that doesn't mean that the assembly couldn't allow that man or woman to continue, but they may do that with voting in a probationary period. If they fail their probationary period, then thank you very much. Your resignation is accepted. And that's always a possibility too.
Yeah, totally, which is a great thing. And also, while you're waiting, like you were saying a moment ago, Rebecca, while you're waiting for their resignation letter, you can issue the acknowledgement that you've received their resignation, just to have something on your own public record, because public record is important. And the assembly itself, right? The assembly itself is a non-living entity filled with a bunch of living people, right? So it is a body that deserves its own protection from the wayward, ebbs and flows of identities and people's issues and their baby traumas and all the things. Okay. So as an assembly, you have a right to protect your own assembly from bad actors or someone just having a bad day. It doesn't mean they're evil. They could have just had a really bad day and came to a realization that, you know what, I'm in the wrong pair of shoes right now. I can't do this. And that's fine. You don't have to hate them. They're still status corrected. They could be part of the talesmen that Anna was talking about earlier, right? They're still part of our public. You don't have to cast them out. They just might not be ready for that role anymore. That's fine. Great question. Thanks, Rebecca. All right, don't forget to drop your link into your Saturday morning meeting into the chat. Well, I texted Anna saying, are you coming back? She hasn't answered, and it's been a few minutes. But I do see some hands up. I don't want to make any presumptions. We've got 4 hands up. Are there any hands that are like, this is only for Anna? If you have a question that's just kind of for the group or for Lisa or me or somebody else on the call, feel free to unmute yourself and just let us know. Otherwise, if your question is for Anna, I think we're going to be wrapping it up and taking questions by email.
May I, Michelle?
Yeah. Hey, Tammy, go for it. Yes.
Hey, Michelle. This is kind of piggybacking off of Rebecca's topic and the questions for you if you have the answer. But if we had somebody that's been serving in a position for a long time, but they are thinking of taking on a different role, we haven't gone through any formal election process yet. If they want to step down from one position and fill another, do they still have to go by that year and a day?
Well, again, that would be up to your assembly. I mean, when you're sort of unofficial and you don't have all the seats filled by the proper election process, et cetera, I think it's really up to your assembly. If they say, listen, I think I would be better suited, now that I'm more familiar, I've been around here for a minute, I think I would be better suited being your, fill in the blank. That would really be up
Right.
to the people on your assembly to determine whether or not that move would be acceptable to your assembly.
Yeah.
It's a different story after you've gone through the election process, because then you have to follow your full election process. But I'm not sure, exactly where New Jersey is at in this process. But I hope that makes it clear. And your question alone points to the fact that that's an area where your procedures committee needs to develop a procedure that ends up being something that the General Assembly ultimately approves. So that your committee should develop a procedure and bring that forward to your General Assembly and see if the procedure is suitable for what's going to work for the New Jersey Assembly.
Yeah, that's where my thought process was going, but I just wanted to, see if you or anybody else had any insight as to, what the proper protocol would be. And so you just kind of answered what I thought would be the correct protocol. So thank you. I yield.
Yeah, you're welcome. And again, it is different once you're fully seated, but as you're building, right? It would be, imagine you're building a house and
Yeah, no, I get it. I get the whole, like, when you put it out there and you've gone through the whole election process and you've put it in the newspaper and you're filling that role officially. Yeah, you can't just step down. Like, I get that. I just wasn't sure what the process was. And in my mind, I was thinking, yes, you've got to talk it over with your assembly, see if everybody's on the same page. And if they agree to this, when we're unofficial right now. So thank you for kind of confirming what my thoughts were. And I'm going to take that back to my assembly. I yield.
Michelle, may I add something I remember Anna saying?
Yeah,
about,
go ahead,
about that thanks. That Tammy, that would be fine if the leaving of the position would not leave it vacant, because that is the leaving of a post. So if there were a replacement for the post that man or woman was leaving to go to the other positions, just so long as that they would provide a replacement, or not provide, but make sure there was someone who was trained and willing and able to step up, then that wouldn't be like leaving the ground that needed to be covered. And so that I remember that as an answer Anna gave a while ago about if people did want to shift positions is kind of what you're asking. And so no, the year doesn't apply to that. The year applies to if you leave a post vacated and you just up and go, because that puts your assembly in a vulnerable position, is what she said. So with that, I yield.
Yeah, and there are certain circumstances too. Let's say there's a serious illness, or, the chairman goes out and gets hit by a bus tomorrow, and all of a sudden a position is vacant. And you have to fill that position. So you get someone that you might already have an elected official who is capable of it, but they're already in a role. So I put a statement in it that they serve at the pleasure of the assembly, and the assembly would basically go, hey, we would like you to go ahead and run for this role, and we would like to seat you in this role, and then we're going to get somebody else to do this role, or we've got so and so over here who we think would be capable, and we're going to shift them into that role. And that would be an appropriate thing to do too. We always have to have continuity of government in mind, always.
awesome. I hope that helps, Rebecca. I mean, I'm so sorry. Suddenly I forgot who asked the question.
Tammy.
Tammy.
That's right. Thank you, Tammy.
Yeah, you're welcome, Michelle. Thank you, everybody, for contributing to that. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Michelle, I have a question.
Okay, Rocky. Now we also have 3 other hands up. So before I go to you real quick, are there any other questions of hands up that are not necessarily for Anna?
Yes, my question is for Lisa.
Go ahead, Shirley. Yep.
Yes. Hi, Lisa. Quick question. We were trying to meet with the mayor. I live in Sandy Springs, Georgia, and he keeps switching appointments. They all of a sudden they disappear. And in the process, we did a little homework. We discovered our mayor is a lobbyist in Washington, D.C. And my question is that legal for him? I mean,
What is the
mean,
I refer you back to the definition of legal, which is why I'm laughing.
okay.
To take something that's unlawful and make it okay. Does that answer your question?
Well, okay. I mean, some people have second jobs. I get that, but he's the mayor, and
Isn't that a conflict of interest?
I know it is.
So
And I'm just
maybe
wondering, I don't know, what could we do about that? Because we can't catch him in his office because I think he'd be at his second job. You
so
know what I'm saying?
does he have like a town meeting or a town council or
Well, yeah, there was a meeting, but all of a sudden it was going to be online. The link disappeared like almost every time. So, and I know technology fails us daily.
right, but you also know folks who are in your area in your city, right?
Right?
That are US citizens. And
Correct.
you can encourage them and show them where the conflict of interest is and stir that pot just a little bit and get them to step up and speak too and make them aware of the conflict of interest and put a little heat on him. Okay?
Okay. We did have an article put in the A newspaper about the whole thing, but
That's probably why I won't meet with you. But that's, you can get on social media for your city or your area and, start, planting the seeds. And there's a lot of people that will pick those seeds up and grow them,
right.
and then you can also notice him. You can just say, hey, look, we're trying to speak to you.
Right.
We want a firm date and time.
Correct. So now we have to wait. Secretary said maybe months out before we can acquire that because you just can't walk up and visit him,
Yeah.
So, and then we discovered that he has a
You had
company.
$100,000 in your hand, you could.
He's running for office for his 4th term, and so he's having some kind of ball in another jurisdiction, and we can't figure out why you're not having it where you're the mayor. I mean,
Right.
and then he has a business. And his business seems to be getting these certain contracts, and I'm just, like I said, I don't know. I don't know. What could we do about?
Sounds like Georgia crony politics is still alive and well. So
Thank you so much. You have a great release.
you too.
Thank you, Shirley. Yeah, I'm sick of these people hiding behind this veil of, oh, that legal is okay. No, it's really not okay. Thank you, Shirley. Now Anna is back. So those of you that hung on here, so welcome back, Anna. We missed you, but I do want to point to that we do have 4 more hands up. Well, Shirley just asked her question, so I think that leaves 3 hands up. But it's 7:18 Pacific time, so 6:18 your time. How much time do we have left with you, Anna?
I'm gonna have to call it tonight. That was a important phone call for me, and I'm gonna have to do some follow-up right away. So I'm sorry, guys, but I'm going to have to wish you a good night and a good week going forward. If you want to get hold of me, just send me your question via email, abanaban@gmail.com. And I'll do my best. Some days I get totally overwhelmed. So if you don't get an answer back, just keep on pushing that resend button until you do, because, you know, sometimes I get thousands of emails in a day. But just keep on putting your hand up, and sooner or later I'll get to it. Or catch me here next week.
All right.
Okay.
Super, Anna. Thank you. All right, everybody. It's 7:19. You heard those instructions straight from Anna. Let's give Anna some love. Anna, thank you for being with us tonight. We love and appreciate you so much.
Take care, guys. Be safe, be healthy, be well, be happy in spite of it all. Consider that your personal, revenge on the entire system. Be happy in spite of it.
That's right.
Take care.
Thank you, Anna. Good night. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Michelle, don't go.
Oh. Yep. Who was that? Rocky?
Rocky,
Okay.
yeah.
Hi, Rocky. Go ahead.
My question is real quick. I think it was Merced. You know, the two that just got married and said they bought something from with their AFDs. Can they tell us what
Oh, yeah.
vendor
Jason,
they bought it from?
Jason and Marcial?
Yes.
Marcial? Yeah.
Yeah. Can they tell us where they bought what vendor they bought it from? The stuff?
Are they on the call? Jason or Maziel, I think on Colorado, if I'm not mistaken. Are they Colorado?
Florida.
Florida.
It's very interesting, right? For example, around here, you might think it's more.
I see Frank lit up in green, but Frank's not there. Frank's on Colorado though, so.
Okay. I was just wondering, you know, the people in our assembly watched the video, that coordinator call, and they were just wondering because she never said where she bought it from. She just says she did it. Right.
Well, you know, I know that there's the business to business on TASA. And so what I'm wondering is if those are the vendors that may also have a business account on GFG.
Okay.
I would check.
Well, next time she's on, whatever, we can ask her. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you, Rocky.
You're
Sorry,
welcome.
Michelle, I didn't realize my mic was on.
Well, it's a good thing you didn't say anything offensive there.
Well, that's right. And well, I didn't have anything to say. But anyway, well, God bless you. Everybody have a wonderful night.
Thank you, Frank. I hope you have a wonderful night too.
I can ask my question too.
Oh, sure. Go ahead, Jan. Yep.
I want to add to Renee's question about voting. During the assembly phase, if a man or woman claiming to be an ASN who we don't know shows up during a GA business meeting and wants to vote, how do we verify during the meeting that the man or woman is an ASN?
So you could either one, have them show their 1779 and their two witnesses. You could have one of your people who has access to the LRO, go out and verify that their paperwork is on the LRO. They could show a credential card and show that they have a current credential card. Any of those methods, Jan, will work.
Okay.
Okay.
Michelle, would you like to know about the timer that's right in Zoom?
Sure. That was the timer that I was using. Is there a different one?
Yeah, go to More and Apps and search for timer.
And apps. Search.
And you'll need to experiment with it to make sure it's loud enough to hear.
Oh, I see it. I love learning new things. And it says timer is ready to use. Oh, good. Now, do I have to do that every time I'm on a meeting, or if I do it once, it's just part of the meeting?
Every time you're on the meeting.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Jan. I appreciate that a lot. Thank you.
I thought other assemblies would like it too.
Yeah, it's helpful. Yeah, I was using an emoji. Now, just for the heck of it, I wanna like start. I want to start it for like. Let's see.
We can see it on your profile.
Oh, you can see it?
Yep.
It's not
On your
just there, it's up in the right-hand corner too.
Oh, yeah.
You can change the sound too. We
Top.
tested all of them.
Oh, that's awesome. Isn't that awesome, guys? Look at us getting all up in the technology. It's the little things. Okay.
I was going to say, it doesn't take much, does it, Michelle?
What will they come up with next?
My own jokes, so the bar isn't very high. Just just being honest.
No comment.
You know, Michelle, we all love you.
Oh, thank you, Rocky. Love you too. Thanks for putting up with me and my little shenanigans over here. I just want to hear what it sounds like. All right. I almost feel like we're doing the New Year's countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Happy. That was kind of cool.
It'll give you other tones too, but there's only 2 that are loud enough.
Oh, that's cool. Well, very cool. Thank you. I love that. Oh, and the the ending sound is called "And the winner is."
That one's not loud enough though. You want the one above that.
Oh, this is awesome. I just wish it would let me test one on like starting it at 3 seconds, because like they've got one called Ooh La La and the Golden Ticket. I'm like, oh, is that the like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory? I got a golden ticket, do 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 do, or Vamonos. Okay. That one was made in California. All right, super. Now we have a couple more hands up. I thought we were wrapping it up, but I'm here to help out. Anita, Dolores, you guys have questions for us or for Anna? Anna.
Sorry, I'm on the phone, so I'm not seeing if the other lady is in front of me or not. Can I just say something quickly?
Yep, you are up. Go ahead, Dolores. We love you.
This is following up on what Jans was saying about the elections. I heard that it may be 2 things mixed up, voting for elections or voting on a particular item on the agenda. This gentleman that came to assembly, which we are all very happy about, he did not know anything about what we were voting. And that's why, because he was a guest, if you want, the coordinator chose not to let that vote because we were voting those who knew the stuff. So we need to distinguish between voting for a position and voting for a particular thing that we've been working on for 2 weeks or longer.
May I, Dolores, interrupt
Yeah.
you? Okay. So if the man was a guest, a U.S. citizen, and not papered up, then he can't vote on your assembly.
No, he's papered up. It's just we haven't seen him for 3 years, that's all. So we're all happy, but he didn't know what we were voting on, I guess.
Well, we have people, unfortunately, on our assemblies who still are somewhat de factoized that just come in and vote, and they really are not as aware as they should be of issues. But we can't deny them their vote. So they're going to come in and they're going to vote. That's their vote. We can't qualify whether they're qualified or not, unfortunately. So as long as they're papered up, as long as it's an internal issue, we don't have to qualify if they're a citizen, an issue on your state, then they can vote just the way everybody else does.
I guess it was a situation where we've never had it before, and the coordinator had to take a decision on the spur of the moment. No evil intent at all, just that we were not prepared to have a guest interested in voting. That's all, I think.
But that's the way you got to look at it. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you, Dolores. Thank you, Lisa. All right, Anita on Kentucky.
Yes, there's a person in the chat from Canada she said the coordinator banned 10 people from the assembly. And I was just trying to help her out to see where she needs to go to find some
So,
solution.
Anita, that's old news. And some of them, from what my comprehension is of the issue, is that some were very disruptive and they were put on timeout until they could begin to behave. I think Canada has been trying to work that out, but they have to follow decorum, and some of them refuse to acknowledge that decorum. So, what choice do they have but to continue to almost sit out until they're able to acknowledge the decorum and come in and do business with the rest of the people peacefully, right?
All right. Thank you, Lisa.
You're welcome.
Yep. Well said. Thanks, Lisa.
Mhm.
All right, everybody. Well, it is 7:29 Pacific time, and next week we'll have this call at the same time, but a different link will be sent out on Thursday morning. And I try to get it out before noon on Thursdays. Noon Pacific, that is, I should say.
Michelle, thank you for protecting us from the psychos.
I'm doing my best. Let me tell you, they're a dime a dozen. So
There were psychos? I missed it.
just in general.
An indecent, crazy person.
That's scary. That's scary when Michelle's protecting us from something.
Oh, you better look out. Saddle up.
Your day's coming. You'll be here in what, 3 months?
That's right. I can't wait. I'm so looking forward to seeing everybody. All right, everyone. Well, you have a great night. Don't forget to share about your assembly locally, and don't get caught up in doom scrolling.
Thank you, Michelle.
We'll see you next week. Thanks, everybody. Good night.
Nice. Be kind.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you, everyone.
Lisa, Michelle.
Good night, all. Good night, Michelle.
Night, Al.